One more thing I want to show you in this section is how to create a code snippet to increase your productivity. So in the components folder, let's add a new file called test.js. If you have noticed, every time we create a component, there are a number of steps we have to complete. First, we have to create a function component. Now, most of the time, our components start with a view. So here we have to add a view. Now, most of the time, our views need a style. So we have to import the stylesheet module on the top and then create our styles object. See, so many steps we have to follow. Now here we create a bunch of styles for our container and then apply them over here. Styles.container. So these are the steps that we have to complete to create a new component. Now, wouldn't that be nicer if you could create this component using a single shortcut? Let me show you how to do that. So I'm not going to save the changes because the moment I do this, Preader is going to reformat the code, and by default, it's going to replace this single quotes with double quotes. Now, there is nothing wrong with double quotes. I know some people hate them. I don't. But in this video, I really need single quotes. You'll see why in a second. So to create a custom snippet, we go to the code menu on the top. If you're on Windows, you're going to see the file menu. Now we go to preferences and then user snippets. Here we select the language for which we want to create a snippet. So I'm going to go with JavaScript. We also have JavaScript React, but that would be enabled if we use the JSX file extension. In this project, we use the JS extension, okay? Now over here, you can see a sample of a code snippet. If this is confusing, just Google VS Code code snippets. Read the documentation, it's super easy, but let me show you how to create a code snippet in this video. So first we add a key value pair. The key is a string. Here we can use a label like function, component. It doesn't really matter. We set it to an object. In this object, we should have a couple of properties. The first one is prefix. We set this to rnfc. This is the shortcut that will activate our code snippet. So I typed rnfc here. That is short for React Native Function Component. Now, next we set body to an array of strings. This is where we define the body of our code snippet. So we have to go back to our test.js file and copy it line by line. And this is why I told you here I really need a single quote, because if you had double quotes, our code here would get more complicated. So let's add a string here and then paste the first line. We add a second string. Now back to our test file, we're going to copy the second line and paste it over here. So we're defining the body exactly the way it should appear when we use this shortcut, using the same formatting. That means over here, the next line is an empty line. So here we have to pass an empty string, okay? Now the fourth line. So I'm going to pause the recording and copy these lines into my JSON file line by line. So here's the end result. We have two import statements, an empty line, our function component with its return statement. Note that all the indentation and formatting is there exactly like our original code. Now, we want to change the name of this function component. We don't want it to be called test. We want to set this based on the name of the current file. So here we're going to use one of the predefined variables. We type $, and in braces we type tm underline file name underline base. Now I'm going to copy this. We're going to repeat this down below where we're exporting this component. Okay. Now the last step. When we create this code snippet, we want our cursor to be right here because that's where we're going to start typing. So here we type $0. Okay. Let's save the changes. Now back to this file. I'm going to delete everything. Let's type rnfc, and here's our function component. So this is how we can create a code snippet. Really easy. Now I've attached this JSON file to this lesson, so you can use my code snippet in case you didn't do all the typing.